16-year-old Tyler Chen felt the familiar buzz of his insulin pump at 2:47 a.m., delivering the automated dose that kept his type 1 diabetes in check while he slept. The Medtronic MiniMed 780G had been his constant companion for 3 years, a wireless device that monitored his glucose levels and automatically adjusted insulin delivery every 5 minutes. His endocrinologist called it life-changing technology. His parents called it the device that lets Tyler be a normal teenager. But when Tyler collapsed in his bedroom at 3:12 a.m., convulsing from severe hypoglycemia, and paramedics found his blood sugar at 28 milligrams DL dangerously, impossibly low, the insulin pump's logs showed something terrifying. Between 2:47 a.m. and 3:09 a.m., the device had delivered 47 units of rapid-acting insulin, enough to kill him 3 times over. The automated system wasn't supposed to deliver more than 15 units per hour. Tyler's settings were capped at 2 units maximum per dose. His continuous glucose monitor showed his blood sugar dropping rapidly during those 22 minutes, yet the pump continued injecting insulin, overriding every safety protocol, ignoring every alarm, as if commanded by something other than medical programming. Tyler survived because his mother, Elizabeth Chen, heard him fall and called 911 within seconds. Paramedics administered emergency glucagon and rushed him to the ICU, where he spent 4 days in critical condition recovering from what doctors called unexplained insulin overdose. But it wasn't unexplained, and it wasn't accidental. Tyler's older sister, Jessica Chen, 24 years old, computer science degree from Berkeley, working as a software engineer, had spent 6 months learning how to hack wireless insulin pumps. She'd found a Bluetooth vulnerability that let her connect to Tyler's device from her bedroom down the hall. She'd written custom software that bypassed every safety limit, and at 2:47 a.m. on March 8, 2024, she'd remotely commanded the pump to deliver a lethal dose while her teenage brother slept, betting that their parents wouldn't wake up in time. Her motive was simple: their grandmother's $2 million estate. The inheritance was divided equally among all grandchildren. But if Tyler died before their grandmother, who was 89 years old and had been given 6 months to live, Jessica's share would double, from $500,000 to $1 million, from comfortable to life-changing money. She didn't count on Tyler's mother waking up. She didn't count on the pump's wireless logs recording every command, including the unauthorized Bluetooth connection from a device registered to her personal laptop. And she didn't count on David Harrington, the investigator hired by Elizabeth Chen, when she refused to believe her son's near death was just a device malfunction. Jessica Chen sits in prison, convicted of attempted murder, serving 18 years. Tyler survived but lives with the knowledge that his sister tried to kill him in his sleep for inheritance money, using the very technology that was supposed to keep him alive. Core question: when medical devices keeping millions alive can be hacked wirelessly, who verifies that the commands keeping your heart beating or your blood sugar stable aren't coming from someone who wants you dead? The emergency room at Stanford Medical Center received the 911 call at 3:14 a.m. 16-year-old male, diabetic, unresponsive, suspected severe hypoglycemia. The paramedics had already administered 2 doses of emergency glucagon by the time they arrived, but Tyler Chen's blood sugar was still dangerously low, his body convulsing from insulin shock. His mother, Elizabeth, rode in the ambulance, holding Tyler's hand, watching the paramedics work with practiced urgency. She kept repeating the same thing: "I don't understand. His pump should have stopped. It should have alarmed. Something's wrong." Tyler's father, David Chen, followed in the family car with Tyler's older sister, Jessica. They arrived at the ER 10 minutes after the ambulance. Jessica looked appropriately concerned, asking doctors for updates, texting friends about the emergency. She appeared to be the worried older sister, terrified for her younger brother's life. Nobody suspected that 22 minutes earlier she'd been sitting in her bedroom with her laptop, watching Tyler's insulin pump logs on her screen, watching his blood sugar plummet as she commanded the device to inject more insulin, more, waiting for the moment when he would slip into a coma and die quietly in his sleep. But Elizabeth had heard him fall. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you value stories about medical technology vulnerabilities and family crimes, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. My name is David Harrington. For 24 years, I've investigated cases where trusted systems failed in suspicious ways. This is the story of how a sister weaponized her brother's life-saving medical device, how wireless technology turned a diabetes management tool into a remote-controlled murder weapon, and how one mother's refusal to accept device malfunction as an explanation exposed a calculated murder attempt hidden behind technical failure. Tyler Chen was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 13. His body could no longer produce insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. Without it, glucose builds up in the bloodstream, causing organ damage, coma, and eventually death. With too much insulin, blood sugar drops dangerously low, causing confusion, seizures, coma, and death. Managing type 1 diabetes is a constant balancing act. Before his insulin pump, Tyler had to manually check his blood sugar 6 to 8 times per day, calculate carbohydrates in every meal, and inject insulin doses based on complex formulas. It was exhausting, anxiety-inducing, and still resulted in dangerous highs and lows. Then, 3 years ago, his endocrinologist recommended the Medtronic MiniMed 780G, an automated insulin delivery system that combined a continuous glucose monitor with a wireless insulin pump. The CGM checked Tyler's blood sugar every 5 minutes. The pump automatically adjusted insulin delivery based on those readings. It was like having a mechanical pancreas. The technology transformed Tyler's life. He could sleep through the night without waking up to check his blood sugar. He could play basketball without constant interruptions. He could eat lunch with friends without calculating insulin doses at the table. The pump handled everything, adjusting for exercise, meals, stress, growth spurts. It gave him his childhood back, Elizabeth would later tell me. For 3 years, that device kept him healthy and let him be a normal teenager. We trusted it completely. The pump had multiple safety features built in: maximum delivery limits, alarm systems that triggered if blood sugar dropped too quickly, automatic insulin suspension if glucose levels fell below safe thresholds, Bluetooth connectivity that let the pump communicate with Tyler's phone and his parents' phones, alerting everyone if problems occurred. On paper, the Medtronic MiniMed 780G was one of the safest insulin delivery systems on the market. FDA approved, extensively tested, trusted by thousands of families. But like the pacemakers in case 16, the wireless connectivity that made the device so useful also created a vulnerability. And Jessica Chen, with her computer science degree and 6 months of obsessive research into medical device hacking, had found it. She'd found the Bluetooth backdoor. She'd written the exploit code. She'd tested it multiple times on Tyler's pump while he slept small, unauthorized doses that didn't trigger alarms, just enough to confirm she had control. She'd waited for the perfect moment when their grandmother's death was imminent and Tyler's death would maximize her inheritance. And at 2:47 a.m. on March 8, 2024, she'd executed her plan. Section 2. The suspicious malfunction. Tyler spent 4 days in the ICU. The massive insulin overdose had sent his body into shock, damaging organs, stressing his cardiovascular system. Doctors administered IV glucose constantly, monitoring his recovery, trying to understand what had caused such a catastrophic failure in a device designed specifically to prevent this exact scenario. The hospital's endocrinology team examined Tyler's insulin pump. They downloaded the device logs, analyzed the delivery history, reviewed every setting and alarm trigger. What they found confused them. The pump's logs showed clearly, between 2:47 a.m. and 3:09 a.m., the device had delivered 47 units of rapid-acting insulin in progressively larger doses. The continuous glucose monitor had been transmitting Tyler's dropping blood sugar every 5 minutes: 98, 87, 71, 54, 39, 28, and yet the pump continued delivering insulin, completely ignoring the data that should have triggered automatic suspension. This doesn't make sense. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, Tyler's endocrinologist, told the Chen family. The pump's safety protocols should have stopped insulin delivery when his glucose dropped below 70, but according to the logs, all safety features were disabled during that time period. "How is that possible?" Elizabeth asked. "Tyler can't disable safety features. Even we can't as his parents. That requires a doctor's authorization code." Dr. Rodriguez frowned at the logs. "That's correct, and I certainly didn't authorize any changes. But somehow, at 2:46 a.m., 1 minute before the overdose began, someone entered an override command that disabled all safety limits and maximum delivery caps." David Chen, Tyler's father, was an accountant, methodical, logical, evidence-focused. "You're saying someone deliberately tampered with Tyler's medical device right before this happened?" "I'm saying the logs show commands that shouldn't have been possible. Medtronic is sending a technical team to analyze the device. They need to determine if there was a software malfunction or," Dr. Rodriguez hesitated, "or if someone accessed the pump remotely." That possibility hung in the air like a weight. Someone remotely accessing a teenage boy's insulin pump, commanding it to deliver a lethal dose while he slept. Elizabeth's voice was quiet but firm. "You're telling me someone tried to kill my son using his diabetes?" "I'm telling you the evidence suggests unauthorized access," Dr. Rodriguez said carefully. "The hospital is required to report this to the FDA and law enforcement. Medical device tampering is a federal crime." But when the Medtronic technical team arrived 3 days later, their analysis was inconclusive. Yes, unauthorized commands had been sent to the pump. Yes, safety features had been disabled. But they couldn't definitively prove remote access versus some kind of catastrophic software bug. The Bluetooth logs showed a connection from an unknown device during the critical time period, but that could have been interference, crosstalk from another nearby Bluetooth device, any number of technical explanations. Without proof of malicious intent, the lead technician explained, "This goes into our database as a potential software vulnerability requiring further investigation. We'll update the firmware, patch the security protocols, notify all MiniMed 780G users about the incident." "That's it?" Elizabeth asked, disbelieving. "My son almost died. You found evidence someone accessed his pump, and you're calling it a potential vulnerability." "Mrs. Chen, I understand your frustration, but without identifying who sent those commands or proving deliberate malicious access, we can't then find out who sent them." The technician spread his hands helplessly. "The Bluetooth connection log shows only that an unauthorized device connected to the pump, not which device, not who controlled it, not where the commands originated. That level of logging wasn't built into this model. The connection was brief, the device identifier was masked, and by the time we're analyzing this, the trail is cold." Elizabeth Chen wasn't satisfied. Something about the timing, the precision of the attack, the fact that safety features were disabled exactly 1 minute before the insulin overdose began, it all felt too calculated to be a random malfunction. She called her insurance company, filing a claim for Tyler's hospitalization. And then she did something the Medtronic team hadn't expected. She hired a private investigator who specialized in cases where technology failures looked suspicious. She hired me. I met Elizabeth Chen in a conference room at her attorney's office. She brought Tyler's medical records, the insulin pump, which Medtronic had returned after analysis, Tyler's phone, and a folder of documentation about the device's capabilities and security features. "Mr. Harrington," she said, sliding the folder across the table, "everyone is telling me this was a malfunction, a terrible, nearly fatal malfunction, but just a glitch in the software. But I was a nurse for 15 years before I had children. I know how these devices work, and I know what I'm looking at in those logs doesn't match any malfunction I've ever seen." I reviewed the documentation. She was right, the pattern was wrong for a random failure. Random malfunctions don't disable safety features 1 minute before executing a lethal command sequence. Random bugs don't deliver insulin in progressively larger doses that perfectly mirror what a human attacker would do to ensure death, while minimizing immediate alarm triggers. "You think someone deliberately tried to kill Tyler?" I said. I think someone accessed his pump remotely and tried to make it look like a device failure. Who would want to hurt your son? Elizabeth's voice caught. That's what I need you to find out, because I can't think of anyone. Tyler's 16. He plays basketball. He gets B's in school. He has friends. He's not involved in anything dangerous. He's just a kid with diabetes trying to live a normal life. What about family dynamics? Any disputes, financial stress, inheritance issues? She hesitated. My mother, Tyler's grandmother. She's in hospice. Stage 4 cancer. Doctors give her maybe 3 to 6 months. She has a trust, about $2 million divided equally among her 4 grandchildren. My 2 kids. My sister's 2 kids. I did the math, so $500,000 per grandchild. But if one grandchild dies before the grandmother, that share gets redistributed to the remaining grandchildren. Yes, the trust specifies that if any beneficiary dies before my mother, their share is split among the surviving grandchildren, meaning if Tyler died now, the other 3 would each receive approximately $666,000. Elizabeth's face went pale as the implication settled. You think someone tried to kill Tyler for an extra $166,000? I think we need to look at who had means, motive, and opportunity. Who in the family has technical skills? Who would know about wireless insulin pumps? Who would benefit most from Tyler's death before your mother's? My sister's kids are 12 and 14. They don't have the technical knowledge. My sister is a teacher, not tech-savvy. My husband is an accountant. He can barely work his smartphone. That leaves... She stopped, the name catching in her throat. Jessica, I finished. Your older daughter, 24, computer science degree, works as a software engineer, lives at home so she had physical proximity to Tyler, would inherit more if Tyler died, has the technical skills to hack a wireless medical device. No, Elizabeth shook her head firmly. Jessica would never hurt Tyler. They're close. She helped him manage his diabetes when he was first diagnosed. She programmed reminder apps for his insulin injections before he got the pump. She looks out for him. Mrs. Chen, I'm not accusing anyone yet. I'm just identifying who we need to investigate. If Jessica had nothing to do with this, the evidence will clear her. But we have to look at everyone with means, motive, and opportunity. Elizabeth was quiet for a long moment. Then, how do we prove if someone accessed the pump remotely? We need digital forensics. I know someone, Sam Reeves, FBI's top medical device expert. If there's evidence of unauthorized access, she can find it. But I'll need Tyler's pump, his phone, and access to any computers or devices in your home that could have connected to the pump's Bluetooth. Jessica's laptop, Elizabeth said slowly. If you're right, if someone really did this, evidence would be on her laptop. Can you get me access to it? Without her knowledge. She's at work right now, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I have keys to her room. Then we move fast, before she has any reason to delete evidence. That afternoon, while Jessica was at her engineering job in San Jose, I met Elizabeth at the Chen family home. It was a comfortable suburban house in Palo Alto, the kind of place where families felt safe, where teenage boys should be able to sleep without worrying that their medical devices might be weaponized against them. Jessica's bedroom was neat, organized, exactly what you'd expect from a software engineer. 2 monitors on her desk, high-end gaming laptop, textbooks on algorithms and network security, a framed Berkeley diploma on the wall, photos of Jessica with Tyler at his basketball games, at family dinners, celebrating his diabetes management milestones. Nothing that screamed, attempted murderer. But when I powered up her laptop, Elizabeth knew the password because she'd set up the parental controls years ago, never changed the desktop, immediately revealed something interesting. A folder labeled Research Medical Devices. Inside were dozens of documents. Research papers on insulin pump security vulnerabilities, GitHub repositories for Bluetooth hacking tools, forum posts discussing Medtronic MiniMed exploits, PDFs of the MiniMed 780G technical specifications and wireless protocol documentation, and a folder labeled Tyler device logs containing files dated over the previous 6 months. Test logs showing small unauthorized insulin doses delivered to Tyler's pump late at night. Progressive experimentation with override commands. Notes documenting which commands triggered alarms and which didn't. A detailed attack plan, time-stamped March 7, 2024, the day before Tyler's overdose, 2:47 a.m. optimal time. Parents asleep. Tyler deep REM cycle. Disable safety protocols at 2:46. Begin insulin delivery at 2:47. Progressively increase dosage to avoid immediate alarm. Target 45+ units over 20 minutes. Expected blood sugar drop. Critical hypoglycemia by 3:10 a.m. Expected outcome, coma, death within 30 minutes without intervention. By the time parents wake up naturally around 6:30 a.m., he'll be gone. Medtronic will blame device malfunction. Investigation will show technical failure, not foul play. Inheritance secured. I photographed everything. Elizabeth, reading over my shoulder, put her hand over her mouth to stifle a sob. Her daughter had written a murder manual. Clinical, detailed, calculating the exact timing to kill her younger brother in his sleep for money. We called Sam Reeves. Within hours, she was on a plane from Washington, D.C. to California. Sam Reeves arrived that evening. She's the FBI's leading expert on medical device cybersecurity, the same specialist who'd analyzed the hacked pacemakers in the Marcus Webb case. If anyone could definitively prove Jessica had accessed Tyler's insulin pump remotely, it was Sam. She set up a forensic workstation in the Chen family's dining room, imaging Jessica's laptop hard drive before Jessica came home from work. The process took 3 hours. During that time, Sam also examined Tyler's insulin pump, his phone, the family's home Wi-Fi router, and any other device that might have logs of the Bluetooth connection. "This is sophisticated," Sam said, reviewing Jessica's files. She didn't just find a random exploit online. She studied the Mini-Mid 780G's wireless protocol for months, reverse-engineered the authentication system, built custom software to send commands that look like they're coming from authorized medical equipment. She pulled up Jessica's code on her screen. This program masks the attacking device's identifier, making it show up as unknown device in the pump's logs. It disables safety features using a backdoor in the doctor authorization system. She found a way to bypass the authentication without needing an actual doctor's code. "How did she learn all this?" Elizabeth asked. "The information is out there, if you know where to look." Security researchers publish insulin pump vulnerabilities to raise awareness and pressure manufacturers to patch them. Jessica took that research and weaponized it. Sam continued digging through the laptop. Here's the connection log from her machine. March 8, 2024, 2:46 a.m. Bluetooth connection established to device ID MNM 780G4729. That's Tyler's pump serial number. Connection duration 23 minutes. Command sent 47 total, progressively increasing insulin delivery from 2 units to 15 units per dose. She zoomed in on the timeline. And here's the smoking gun. At 3:09 a.m. she sent a disconnect command and closed the program. That's exactly when Tyler's blood sugar hit 28 and he collapsed. She was watching his glucose readings on her screen through the hacked connection, waiting to see him die. But he fell, and I heard him, Elizabeth said. "If I hadn't woken up, he'd be dead," Sam confirmed. And Medtronic would have analyzed the pump, found the technical anomalies, and probably concluded it was a software bug. They'd issue a recall, patch the vulnerability, and no one would ever know it was murder. I asked the question that mattered most. Can you prove in court that Jessica sent these commands? Absolutely. The laptop contains custom attack software she wrote herself, with her code comments and version control history. 6 months of test attacks on Tyler's pump, documented with timestamps matching periods when Tyler experienced unexplained blood sugar drops. The attack plan dated March 7th, outlining the murder method. Connection logs proving her laptop connected to Tyler's pump at the exact time of the overdose. Bluetooth packet capture showing the commands sent from her machine. Her internet search history, researching lethal insulin doses, hypoglycemia death timelines, and how to avoid detection in medical device tampering. Sam looked at Elizabeth with sympathy. Your daughter spent half a year planning to murder your son. The evidence is overwhelming. We needed to involve law enforcement before Jessica had any chance to destroy evidence. Sam contacted the FBI's Cybercrimes Division. I contacted the local police. By 8 p.m. that evening, we had a warrant to seize Jessica's laptop and arrest her on suspicion of attempted murder. Jessica came home from work at 6:15 p.m. She made dinner, ate with her family, asked Tyler how he was feeling, and acted like the concerned older sister she'd always been. Elizabeth, sitting across the table from her daughter, trying to act normal, told me later it was the hardest thing she'd ever done. I kept thinking about all the times Jessica helped Tyler with his diabetes, Elizabeth said. She'd set alarms to wake him up for blood sugar checks. She'd drive him to endocrinology appointments. She celebrated when he got the insulin pump because it made his life easier. How did she go from that person to someone who would use his medical device to kill him? Dr. Marcus Chen, no relation to the family, provided the psychological analysis later during trial. Marcus specializes in family violence and sibling dynamics gone wrong. Jessica's behavior represents a specific pattern we see in financial motive family murders, Marcus explained to me before the trial. She genuinely cared about Tyler when he was diagnosed, but that was before their grandmother's terminal diagnosis. Once the inheritance became real, once it went from an abstract future possibility to Grandma has 6 months and then I get $500,000, Tyler transformed in Jessica's mind from brother to obstacle. But it's only $166,000 more if Tyler dies, I pointed out. She'd still inherit $500,000 either way. To you and me, that doesn't justify murder. But to someone who's rationalized killing, the incremental increase provides the excuse. Jessica likely told herself, I'm going to get money anyway. If Tyler dies, I get a bit more. He's had health issues his whole life with diabetes. It would look natural. No one would suspect. And I deserve that money more because I've worked hard. I have student loans. I have career goals that need funding. Marcus continued. The planning phase, 6 months of testing, research, preparation, that's the rationalization period. Every test attack where Tyler's blood sugar dropped slightly and he was fine, that reinforced her belief she could get away with it. By the time she executed the final attack, she'd fully dehumanized him in her mind. He wasn't her brother anymore. He was a financial calculation. What about the fact she kept helping him with his diabetes, even while planning to kill him? Maintaining the facade. If she suddenly stopped being the helpful sister, stopped caring about his health, people might have found that suspicious after his death. She needed to be the grieving sister, the one who'd done everything right, who couldn't have seen this coming. The arrest happened at 8:47 p.m. FBI agents and local police entered the Chen home with a warrant. Jessica was in her bedroom, working on her laptop. When agents knocked and announced their presence, her first instinct wasn't to ask what was wrong. It was to reach for her laptop, likely to delete evidence, but it was too late. Sam had already imaged the drive that afternoon. Everything Jessica tried to delete after her arrest only provided more evidence of consciousness of guilt. She was read her rights. The FBI seized her laptop, her phone, her backup drives. She was handcuffed in her parents' living room while Tyler watched from the stairs, confused and terrified, not yet understanding that his sister had tried to kill him. At the police station, Jessica initially maintained innocence. I don't know what you're talking about. I would never hurt Tyler. This is insane. But when FBI agents showed her the attack plan they'd found on her laptop, the document she'd written, with her writing style, containing details only the attacker would know, she went silent. Her lawyer, arriving an hour later, advised her not to say anything more. The forensic evidence spoke for itself anyway. Section 4. The trial. Jessica Chen's trial began 8 months later. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating, building the narrative piece by piece. The motive. Financial analysts testified about the inheritance structure. If Tyler died before their grandmother, Jessica's share increased from $500,000 to approximately $666,000. Her financial records showed significant credit card debt, student loans, and a lifestyle she was struggling to maintain on her entry-level engineering salary. Text messages to friends revealed her resentment that $500,000 isn't actually that much after taxes, and her calculations about what she could do with a full $1,000,000. The means. Sam Reeves walked the jury through Jessica's technical capabilities. She explained how Jessica had reverse-engineered the insulin pump's wireless protocol, developed custom attack software, and exploited a security vulnerability that Medtronic later patched. The jury saw Jessica's code, her research, her test logs showing months of experimentation on Tyler's pump. This wasn't a crime of passion or a momentary lapse in judgment, Sam testified. This was a calculated, technically sophisticated murder attempt that required months of preparation, specialized knowledge, and access to the victim's medical device. The opportunity. Jessica lived in the same house as Tyler. She had physical access to his insulin pump, which he left charging in the bathroom they shared. She'd helped set up his pump's wireless settings when he first got it. She knew his routines, his sleep schedule, his parents' sleep patterns. She had every opportunity to execute her plan. The execution. Prosecutors presented the timeline. March 7th. Jessica finalized her attack plan. March 8th, 2:46 a.m. Her laptop's Bluetooth logs showed connection to Tyler's pump. The pump's logs showed unauthorized commands disabling safety features. At 2:47 a.m., the overdose began. For 22 minutes, Jessica's laptop sent commands delivering progressively larger insulin doses, while Tyler's blood sugar dropped into lethal territory. Tyler's mother, Elizabeth, testified about hearing him fall, finding him convulsing, the terror of watching paramedics fight to save him. She testified about the moment she realized her daughter had tried to kill her son, about reading Jessica's attack plan and seeing clinical calculations about the best time for Tyler to die. Tyler testified, though his testimony was brief, he was still a traumatized 16-year-old. He described waking up in the ICU, confused and terrified. He described learning that his insulin pump had been hacked, and then learning that his sister had been arrested for attempting to murder him. "I don't understand why," Tyler said, crying on the witness stand. "We were close. I thought she cared about me. She helped me when I was diagnosed. Why would she try to kill me for money?" No one had a good answer. The defense tried to argue that Jessica's research into insulin pump vulnerabilities was for academic purposes. She was concerned about security and wanted to help Medtronic identify weaknesses. They argued the attack plan was a theoretical exercise, not a real murder plot. They suggested the Bluetooth connection could have been accidental, that the commands could have been sent by malware on Jessica's laptop, without her knowledge. But the prosecution had too much evidence. Jessica's internet searches the week before the attack. How long does hypoglycemia take to kill? Can diabetic coma be detected as murder? Insulin overdose looks natural. How to avoid forensic detection, medical device hacking. Her test attacks on Tyler's pump, documented over 6 months, showing progressive refinement of her technique. The attack plan written in her own voice, using phrases and references only she would make. The fact that she deleted files immediately after her arrest, showing consciousness of guilt. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. Guilty of attempted murder. Guilty of computer fraud and abuse. Guilty of unauthorized access to medical devices. Guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. At sentencing, Judge Thomas Morrison was harsh. "Ms. Chen, you used your education and technical skills not to build, but to destroy. You betrayed the trust of your family. You weaponized your brother's medical condition against him. You spent 6 months planning to murder a 16-year-old boy whose only crime was being alive when you wanted more money." The judge paused. "The only reason you're being sentenced for attempted murder instead of murder is because Tyler's mother woke up at the exact right moment. You came within minutes of succeeding, and if you had succeeded, Tyler would be dead, your parents would be grieving, and you would have inherited his share of money built on his corpse." The sentence, 18 years in federal prison, with a recommendation against early parole. Upon release, lifetime ban from working with any medical devices or healthcare technology. Permanent restraining order, preventing contact with Tyler. Jessica showed no emotion as the sentence was read. Even facing nearly 2 decades in prison, she maintained the cold, calculating demeanor that had allowed her to plan her brother's murder while helping him manage his diabetes. Tyler and Elizabeth Chen sat in the gallery. Tyler was 17 now, still processing the trauma. Elizabeth held his hand, grateful he was alive, devastated by what her daughter had become. Final section, the aftermath. 1,500 words. The Chen case became a watershed moment for medical device security. Within months, several critical changes occurred. FDA response. The Food and Drug Administration issued emergency guidance requiring enhanced security for all wireless-enabled medical devices. Manufacturers were mandated to implement encrypted Bluetooth connections with mutual authentication. Real-time logging of all wireless connections, including device identifier. Remote access alerts sent to patients and caregivers when unauthorized connections attempt. Tamper-evident logs that cannot be altered or deleted. Safety features that cannot be disabled without in-person doctor authorization, with biometric verification. Medtronic's actions. The company issued an urgent recall of the MiniMed 780G, providing free firmware updates to all users. They also developed new insulin pump models with biometric authentication required for any settings changes, GPS logging of device location during any remote access, AI-based anomaly detection that flags unusual command patterns, automatic connection to emergency services if life-threatening commands are detected. Legal precedent. The Chen case established clear legal precedent. Hacking medical devices to harm patients is attempted murder/murder, not just computer fraud. Federal prosecutors across the country began investigating suspicious medical device failures with renewed scrutiny. Family impact. Tyler Chen, now 19, lives with permanent psychological trauma. He developed severe anxiety around his diabetes management, fearing that any device malfunction might be another attack. He switched to a different insulin pump model, then briefly returned to manual injection management, before finally accepting a new automated system with extensive security features. "I still have nightmares about waking up in the ICU," Tyler told a diabetes advocacy group during a speaking event. "But worse than that are the nightmares where I'm sleeping and I hear my insulin pump buzzing, and I wonder if it's keeping me alive or killing me. My sister turned my medical device, the thing that's supposed to keep me healthy, into something I'm afraid of." Elizabeth Chen divorced David Chen 2 years after Jessica's conviction. The stress of the trial, the guilt both parents felt for not detecting Jessica's plans, the fundamental question of how they'd raised a daughter capable of such calculation, it destroyed their marriage. Elizabeth became an advocate for medical device security, working with manufacturers and regulators to improve protections. David retreated from public life, unable to reconcile his love for both children with what Jessica had done. Tyler's relationship with his extended family fractured. His aunt and cousins, the other beneficiaries of the inheritance, faced suspicion, despite having nothing to do with Jessica's plan. The grandmother, whose terminal illness had triggered the whole tragedy, lived 2 more years after her expected 6 months, long enough to see Jessica convicted. She died knowing her estate had nearly cost her grandson his life. The inheritance was eventually distributed after the grandmother's death. Tyler received his $500,000, but he donated it all to diabetes research and medical device security initiatives, saying he didn't want any connection to the money that had motivated his sister's murder attempt. Jessica's prison years. In prison, Jessica Chen maintained that she'd been wrongly convicted. In interviews with criminal psychology researchers, including Dr. Marcus Chen, she claimed the evidence was misinterpreted, that she'd been researching vulnerabilities to help protect Tyler, that the attack plan was fiction writing, that the timing of the Bluetooth connection was coincidence. "She's rewritten the narrative in her mind," Marcus explained after interviewing Jessica. "She cannot accept that she attempted to murder her brother. So she's constructed an alternate reality where she was the protective sister and the evidence was misunderstood. It's a psychological defense mechanism, but also demonstrates a fundamental lack of empathy and remorse. Jessica has been denied parole twice. The parole board noted her continued denial of responsibility and assessment that she remains a danger to Tyler if released. Broader implications. The Chen case exposed a terrifying reality. Millions of people worldwide depend on wireless-enabled medical devices for survival. Insulin pumps, pacemakers, defibrillators, drug infusion pumps, all potentially vulnerable to hacking. Security researchers began finding vulnerabilities in dozens of medical device models. In 2024 alone, the FDA recalled 14 different wireless medical devices due to security flaws that could allow unauthorized access. But the question remained: how many device malfunctions throughout medical history were actually attacks? How many people died from what appeared to be equipment failure, but was really murder? Before digital forensics capabilities existed, before investigators knew to look for hacking evidence, how many families lost loved ones to weaponized medical technology and never knew? The technology continues to advance. Modern insulin pumps now have security features, Jessica's attack exposed as necessary, end-to-end encryption on all wireless communication, biometric authentication for settings changes, real-time alerts to caregivers for any unauthorized access attempts, tamper-proof logs with blockchain verification, AI monitoring for command patterns that don't match typical medical use. But security experts warn that as medical devices become more sophisticated, so do the attacks. The arms race between protection and exploitation continues. Tyler's advocacy. Despite his trauma, Tyler became a powerful advocate for medical device security. At 19, he testified before Congress about the need for stricter security standards. He worked with Medtronic and other manufacturers to test new security features. He spoke at diabetes conferences, technology security summits, and high schools about the importance of digital safety in healthcare. "I survived because my mum woke up at the right moment," Tyler said in his congressional testimony. But there are millions of people with wireless medical devices who wouldn't survive if someone with bad intentions and technical skills decided to hack them. We need better protection. We need devices that can't be weaponized against the people they're supposed to be helping. His message resonated. Medical device security, previously an obscure corner of cybersecurity, became a federal priority. Funding increased for security research. Regulations tightened. Manufacturers faced liability if their devices lacked adequate protection. But Tyler still lives with the knowledge that for 6 months, while his sister smiled at him across the dinner table and helped him with his diabetes, she was planning to kill him in his sleep. That betrayal, that violation of family trust, left scars no amount of device security could heal. "She used to help me calculate my insulin doses," Tyler said in a quiet moment after a speaking event. "She'd remind me to check my blood sugar. She bought me a medical alert bracelet when I first got diagnosed. And the whole time she was learning how to hack my pump so she could kill me. How do you ever trust anyone again after that?" Closing. This is case Nuff 1, the insulin pump. A story about how wireless medical technology, designed to save lives, became a remote-controlled murder weapon in the hands of someone motivated by greed. About how a sister spent 6 months planning to kill her teenage brother for an extra $166,000 in inheritance. About how one mother's refusal to accept device malfunction as an explanation exposed a calculated murder attempt. Jessica Chen sits in federal prison, serving year 5 of her 18-year sentence. Tyler Chen survived but lives with psychological trauma and fear of the medical devices keeping him alive. Elizabeth Chen, divorced, advocates for medical device security and struggles with the guilt of having raised a daughter capable of attempted murder. And somewhere tonight, millions of people around the world are sleeping with wireless medical devices, insulin pumps, pacemakers, defibrillators, trusting that the technology keeping them alive is secure from those who might weaponize it. The Chen case proved that trust can be misplaced. that family members can become threats, that inheritance money can motivate sibling murder, that medical devices need security features as sophisticated as the technology keeping patients alive. Tyler was 16 years old when his sister decided his life was worth less than $166,000. He survived because his mother heard him fall 3 minutes later, and he would have slipped into a coma 5 minutes later, and paramedics would have arrived too late. The device designed to keep him healthy nearly killed him, and the sister who once helped him manage his diabetes wrote the code that commanded his insulin pump to deliver a lethal dose. Some weapons are held in hands. Others connect via Bluetooth while you sleep. Jessica Chen's weapon was software, mathematics, and the wireless protocol of a medical device. Her crime scene was Tyler's bedroom. Her murder method was automated insulin delivery. Her alibi was being down the hall when her laptop executed the attack she'd programmed. She came within minutes of getting away with the perfect technological murder. Instead, she exposed a vulnerability that changed medical device security forever. But that change came at the cost of Tyler's innocence, his family's destruction, and his permanent fear that the technology keeping him alive might someday be turned against him again. When medical devices can be hacked remotely, every patient with wireless technology faces a terrible question. Who else has access to the thing keeping me alive? For Tyler Chen, the answer was his sister, and she used that access to try to kill him.